welcome everyone to Seattle Angel Meetup Space. We're here to talk about Gust profiles, but our bigger mission is assisting companies, founders to move forward to be investable by angel investors. And that's our second cohort, is to improve the education and knowledge of investors so that they can invest in the new companies that are coming forward. I am actually filling in for John Seacrest today, who was unable to join us, and I'm delighted to be able to host. I'm joined by an ably group of individuals. So firstly, I would like to welcome everybody to the session today.
Hi. I'm Andrew. I work with the Seattle Angel Conference as a senior consultant for Synthesis Marketing Solutions. We offer some marketing assistance help, and we do general business development. So when we reach new avenues with the Seattle Angel Conference, we develop and kind of pivot the role and make sure that we're doing everything we need to do to keep things in line. We do a few of these talks a year to make sure that we're showing you guys that we do exist, that there is some kind of there's some kind of marketing firm behind things and involved. But yeah, and then so specifically what I do is I'm a strategy and data analytics. So I set up all of the labeling and attributes for all of the web interactions anywhere basically you interact. Like if you clicked on a Facebook link, or if you clicked on a LinkedIn link, or if you clicked on the sign up now on Meetup or on the website or any of these things, I can typically track all of those interactions, and I know where you all live. And but it's the weird, creepy part of marketing. We do all that stuff at the Seattle Angel Conference.
All the best parts.
All the best parts. Less creepy than normal.
And I'm Caitlin. I also co-own Synthesis. We originally got in with small businesses, local businesses, and realized that startups were really where we wanted to be. We really wanted to foster growth in that community, and also startups seem to be in that place where they need the most help, the most guidance, and we can really make a difference with a startup and really bring them from nothing into like some global brand. So we really like to work with startups.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd awareness or realization at some point in time where we were running a couple startups on our own, and then the marketing was going really well. There wasn't a lot of product market fit, or there wasn't a lot of viability at the time due to FAA standards. It was a drone company, the primary one, and so we didn't have an opportunity to really move forward with new legislation. So we decided, like, okay, let's just offer our marketing to local companies, and then it ended up that our marketing works best for startups. It's lean, it's agile, it's cheap, it's affordable for people who are just starting out. It's a one-man team type of structure. So that's where we lean into it really hard, as we try to help people with small teams build efficient marketing strategies and go-to-market strategies.
And even funding strategies.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so we're here today to talk about the Gust profile.
So what we're going to do is focus a little bit at the beginning on some of the mechanics of what is in a Gust profile. And so having just listened to your introduction, some people have actually done Gust profiles at some point or another. What we want to do is just show how to actually establish a Gust profile and link it to the SAC Angel Conference. And then the second thing we want to do is actually, we've got a company and a founder, Praveen, and an investor, John, and they're going to walk through what they look like in sharing a Gust profile. And then if anyone else wants to share a profile and get feedback from Caitlin and Andrew, as well as any of the other investors or company founders in a very tactful and constructive way, then we'll open that up as an opportunity. So be thinking about that if you wish to use it. All right, Andrew?
Yeah, so I think we wanted to start out with actually reviewing Praveen's profile, or having him jump into it and kind of show us.
We should probably show how to even like log into Gust.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure, let's do that. Do you want to run through the slideshow, or do you want to do it?
No, we should just try and log in and show them how complicated it is to even find the profile.
Deal. Okay, you want to actually switch seats?
No.
Oh,
It's just not a real business or anything that we're setting up here.
sure. All right. Do you want to get started or sign up?
Get started.
Let's just do a fresh one. Okay.
Yeah, let's get started. Let's try and start an account, and then we'll show you how difficult it is to use Gust.
All right. So it's going to say some stuff. What's the most important next step for your startup?
Well, they
So
raise funds.
a lot of you are probably trying to raise funds at this point, which is interesting because apparently you're supposed to have this before you're raising funds. How do you feel about taking your next step? Very confident or less confident? I'm going to say less confident since this isn't a real startup. We're not very confident in this one. Tell us about your startup. Select all that apply. I've already incorporated. I have co-founders. Well, maybe I'm incorporated. Let's go S Corp. First name. Should I just do James Bob?
Sure.
James Bob. That works there. Actually, let's go ahead and do Angel Synthesis Marketing. We'll do.
So as Andrew's typing in, I will tell you that there's two companies need to do a profile and investors need to do a profile so that you can set up an account, and we'll invite you to an account, which then you allows you to see the Seattle Angel Conference deals.
This is the fun page that tells you exactly no way to tell you how to get to your profile. So you have to scroll all the way down this page, and the last link on the page is how you get past this area. Otherwise, it's going to, like, the evaluate your startup button. It's like a little questionnaire that tells you at the end, like, oh, you need to start over and redo your S Corp as a C Corp, or you guys don't seem to be ready for funding, or you guys are totally ready for funding. Let's go to the next step. And it'll give you like a bunch of things that you like, advice and stuff that you could do. But that's not really what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get to the profile, which is find and apply to relevant investors and accelerators down the bottom of the page.
Yeah. So let's see, find relevant investors, select your industry. We'll say that we're in biotechnology because I have a love for biotechnology. Find investors.
Your company profile is up at the top there.
Yeah, I'm running through whatever they send you through.
Yeah.
So you get, like, you know, these different outputs and stuff, but I don't think at any point in time it really like drives you strictly to the profile. Anyway, so this is James's startup. And this is basically where you'd go to punch in all your information. I think am I sharing a window or a screen? I think I'm sharing a screen. Let me, well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay. So this is how you actually get to the profile. Has anybody had trouble getting here yet? Like, I mean, you guys can comment in the chat or something. But historically, the issues that we've come across are that people have just the absolute worst time trying to actually find just this section right here.
And then also people have a hard time filling it out too.
Yeah.
Some people.
So yeah, the last time we did this talk, we ran through a slideshow of how to do all of this. We got to this point and we stopped and asked everybody, how many of you have seen this page? And like 5 out of 40 people raised their hands.
So we're going to do that now. Has everybody seen this page? So you can just say no if you have not. Maybe that's easier.
That page? I'm still on the previous page.
Yeah.
So you're doing yours as we go?
I'm trying to.
Excellent. Okay.
Well,
Okay. Well, we'll keep going then.
okay. What would you like to explore next?
The first things I like to fill out are just the easiest things. Gives you a little bit of a win just to put in the name of your startup, a logo, your industry, your employees, just the little things, your website URL. That's going to give you like your first little win that you at least put something into your profile. And then from there you kind of choose I would say you could either go through systematically, question by question, or choose the easiest ones first and leave the hardest ones to last. That way you have at least something there and you can feel good about what we've got there.
Yeah, actually, hey, John, so this is where I'm curious to kind of break away from this format. I'm curious to see, you have the investor portal, right, John? Can you share your screen and show us what the investor portal looks like?
Yeah, let's see.
So what I'm interested in showing you guys here is that when you go and view this as an investor, there are specific pieces of information that are in this profile that show up to the investors in a grid where they just like hover over a box and it pops out a little description. And that is probably one of the more important parts of all of this, is the fact that the investors aren't going and scraping your profile. It's your job to fill out the profile, and the information to them is a synopsis that they read. And so making sure that this profile is filled out properly is hyper important for that purpose alone.
So it says I can't share if somebody
here.
else is sharing.
Let me stop, yeah.
All right. Am I sharing now?
Not yet.
Let's see. I have two screens. I'm not sure which one. I'm getting a privacy. What are you seeing? Nothing?
Nothing. And I've checked, it's multiple participants can share, so.
I'm getting, sorry, I am getting a privacy screen issue that don't know if I can resolve quickly here.
Oh, that's all right. So
Praveen, as a company founder, or can we see if you can share yours?
Sure.
I was going to say maybe Shaiwal can show us his investor portal if he's able to.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I don't have access to it, so.
Oh, okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, great. So as a founder, you filled this out.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, there's some little bit of a learning curve, but I think it didn't take much time to fill this thing out.
Great. You want to walk through a little bit about Faith Kitchens there?
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, initially when I was here, first thing it asked me is to go through the profile that just now Andrew and Kathleen talked about, right? So where's that the page? Yeah, this is where it is. So at first, it takes you to this through the survey or going through this process before we get to that page. So you have to fill it. For me, I felt like I had to fill this thing out. So once I filled it out, then I got to a point where this opened up for me, the dashboard, meaning find and apply. When I click this, then I go to my profile, meaning where I can go and apply for my things. So this is where I went there. And to get to the company profile, it's right here.
Yeah, and on the previous version of Gust, that screen where you have to scroll to the bottom and click the link, it was probably
2 times as long.
9 or 10 paragraphs before you hit the actual bottom, and then you could click that link, and it was at the very bottom then too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Exactly. So that kind of took time to figure it out. So it was not as simple as like, hey, you are on the dashboard right away. When you log in, generally, what you expect from any kind of portals is like land on a landing page where the dashboard is there. But this one, it doesn't seem like that. So the landing page is those 2 screens that you saw just now.
Definitely.
Which to me is bullshit.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know why they create this thing. I feel like you just directly have to go to this landing page.
Somebody should make it.
Well, I'm going to just put a plug in here because David Rose, who actually started this Gust profile company and is still actively working with it many years later, is actually going to be speaking on July the 27th about angel investing, Gust profiles, how to best sell your company. And so there's the the opportunity to ask him some questions and also come and hear. The book was published 7 years ago and was felt to be a leading book on angel investing, and he's going to tell us what's changed since then. And so I'm sure that this software tool has actually evolved, but it'll be interesting. We could ask him what is the next evolution. Anyways, that was a brief segue there for linking that. So keep going, Praveen, and tell us a little bit about the other things.
Yeah, so once you get to the company profile, I think like Andrew said, you just need to fill the basic things. So I went and did the summary. I couldn't upload the logo because it needed a different graphic, a different size altogether. The logos that I had didn't fill that one. So it was cutting out, or it was only coming like too small or too big. So that I need to figure it out. So I need to know what exact size I need to fit into that logo. So that's the reason I didn't have it there. I tried multiple, it didn't work out. And coming back into pitch deck, I mean, I was able to upload. It was pretty simple. It was just a PDF doc, and I was able to upload, and I can see it here. And executive summary. There are multiple fields that you might have to fill. It takes a little bit of time. I mean, if you have a business plan document, it won't take much time. All you need to do is copy, paste into this place, and make sure that you only give the right amount of statements or the data that you need, because I feel that a lot of people don't have much time to go through these profiles. So be concise as much as concise as possible.
Yeah, and how much of a struggle was it to fit all of your content into those character limits?
It was, I mean, it was not much. I mean, I also use a copy.io, so that also helped me out. So copy.io is like you provide a sentence or any kind of a thing, right? So it gives you like 1,000 different ways of telling you. So different ways of framing things. So that kind of helped me out in filling this thing out. So I don't know if anyone used copy.io. It's amazing. I mean, especially for marketing, right? So I use it for all my subject lines. Just an FYI. So I don't want to deviate from this topic, but it took time. But that copy.io made it easy for me.
Thanks for that.
Filling out. So yeah, so the financials part, it took some time because I have to open my document, the projections, and fill in each and every detail into it. So this kind of took a little more time. And I feel that these have to be, because right now we are at a startup level. These numbers are all projections. We only have 2020 data, and 2021 is half the truth. So we have to put the actual numbers, and some of them is like the projections later on. So it took time for me to fill in this data, and customer sales, I still have to put that data in. Yeah. So all these documents that if you have,
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andrew. Yeah, I didn't upload any of these documents. If anyone, I don't know how much Gust profile is completely used. So like today, I wanted to know how many people will really use Gust profile, right? So how many people, is it like is it like a LinkedIn of investing? LinkedIn is mainly for professional looking out for jobs, or it kind of became, right now it became a social media for professionals, but mainly it started as a job profile, right? Hey, put your professional profile out there, and it's easy to look for jobs or easy to look for people around. So I want to understand this Gust profile as well. Yeah, the purpose. I understand that there's a profile that you can create for startups, but how much active is it? Like how many investors or how many founders are really be looking at these things? So that question I had. We can go through that later. And another thing that I struggled with, one of the things that I struggled was like putting the team in there. When I was adding, I don't think I got a team in there. I think I only found co-founders and all those things, but I was not able to add my advisors and all of that. So probably I did this 2 months ago, so I don't remember exactly in detail the problems that I faced. But definitely, if we have a chance, I think we can go through that today. Overall, it wasn't like a big deal to give the basic information, but to know what exactly to be there and also how to highlight yourself, how to put yourself on top of everyone, that today I'm here to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And so for anybody who's not aware, the financial projections that Praveen was talking about, they literally are just projections, which is like another term for just a hypothesis. Like you put down what you calculate it out and you scale it over time. You know, there's obviously math involved in that projection, but it is a projection. It's literally just a kind of a mathematical guess about where you might be eventually. There's not anything set in stone about the future. Obviously, it doesn't exist yet. So don't stress yourself out too much about those types of things. Like, a lot of people get really, really hung up on like, oh, I need to put this in and it has to be perfect. And I need to go hire somebody for $700 billion an hour to make sure this is correct. And that's just totally not the case.
So I would say that this is not a static file, is what you're saying, Andrew, because people come back to it often again and again and again as you do an experiment and you refine your customer base. Then you'll come back in and make some modifications here on your financials or even on what your business model might be. It may change as time goes on. Let's jump to John, who also has access to the same profile from his investor portal, and talk about what you look for if we think about this, the timing and the progression of SAC. So companies apply, and the first stage on the process is that we review Gust profiles, just like John is going to show you, and we listen to your 1-minute pitches. And so, John, I'll let you take it away and show us what you see if you were looking at this.
Yeah, thanks. And I think I resolved my settings issue. So Praveen, if you can unshare.
Stop share. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I think I can share.
There you go. We can see it nicely.
Okay. So this is Praveen's page as it appears to me as an investor, you know, with different headings on it. So as Elizabeth said, you know, the first steps of SAC, and I think in screening in general, is screening committees at angel groups are looking at a lot of information or a lot of different companies, and they're going through them pretty quickly. At SAC, we usually have at least 50 companies that are entering the cohort, and we ask our investors to look through this information and make some preliminary judgments in the first couple sessions. So it's a lot of work for them to do. So it's important to stand out and put sort of the, you know, the highlights up front. So when I was looking at Praveen's, and I think pretty solid, I think the things I look at first are, you know, is I look at this overview paragraph. I mean, because it's the first thing I'm going to see, and you know, does it make sense? Do I understand enough about the business? You know, I could get hung up here if it's a bunch of highly technical or just pie in the sky stuff. I might not even go any farther than that. I mean, realistically, people are trying to move these things through. So the first thing is just kind of the smell test on this overview. And is it compelling? I think Praveen did a nice job of explaining the business. And the only knock I would have on this is I know that he's seen revenue, and that's a critical milestone. And I would put that into this space because it's gonna catch the eye of an investor as, you know, the company any important milestone that you've reached or aspect of your company. I mean, it could be you have revenue. It could be you have an MVP. It could be you have patents. It could be something exceptional about your team. Put it in here because you want to catch the eye right away.
And it is there. It's in product stage, 1 million in TTM revenue, and it's in the bottom stage of the company. But people will be reading this paragraph, is what you're saying, John.
Right, and same with if I pop over to the executive summary. But I guess what I'm saying is use this paragraph here to be really clear on what you do and to accentuate any highlights you have. And just at the high level, it's the first thing I look at. In general, as I'm looking through this, I'm like, okay, oh, there's a pitch deck, good. Oh, executive summary, they filled it out. I can't tell you how many things I've seen on platforms like this where they're only like half filled out, or there's not a pitch deck. And that'll make me kind of just move on to somebody who's going to give me more information. So I don't think you have to fill out every single detail, but I think you want to definitely have the overview, have a pitch deck, and have an executive summary filled out. At the high level, I'm just, is that stuff there? And is there a compelling information in the overview that makes me want to dig in? Just seeing what
yeah, I'm curious, John. There is a like a page that shows you all of the people enrolled in an event, right? Like a spreadsheet almost. It might be under the Seattle Angel Conference profile for the people who have enrolled.
Yeah, I can I mean, yeah, there is a lot of different companies from that you can kind of see.
This is what I was told. So like when you're writing a compelling Gust profile, what you need to focus on are the points that you see here, because, or at least this is how it was explained to me by John and one of the other investors, was that when you land here, you're going to hover over these and you're going to kind of read a brief synopsis. So if you hover over each one, it tells you a little bit about each company. And so as far as I know, this is really where the investor's first point of contact with you is in most cases, because they're just scrolling through a list reading these things. So for anybody who thinks like, oh, like the Gust profile, yeah, that's probably an important part, but I have to get these other things done first. Literally, if you don't have everything showing up in here properly in this specific location, you'll probably get passed over. So,
yeah, that's an excellent point. And I did kind of skip over that and go to his thing. I tend to be kind of systematic in this, but like this paragraph here that's showing up, that's the same one in the, I think it's the overview. And so if I click, it's the same text here, I believe. So,
so quick question, John here. So when you hover over it, it says on the bottom. Yeah, so even here.
I'll go back.
So, oh, no problem. So here, company founded in 2019, all the way in the bottom, right? And there's money raised. There's nothing. I had a question there, because are we talking about previous fundraise, or right now, whatever the next round is, did we raise something out of it? So I had that question, and that's the reason I didn't put anything out there. So I'm looking for 4 million in the next round, but previously I did family and friend 800K. So what should go there?
I'd put 800K.
It's past tense, raised.
Past. Okay, got
So
it.
you should put what you've raised.
Makes sense. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So when I was looking at those high level things, I was pretty impressed with the way Praveen put this in. The area when I went over to executive summary, because it's one of the high level areas I look at, that I wanted to see a little bit more on here was the details about the management team. And I know you mentioned some issues you had on the team tab, kind of finding your co-founders. Right. I know one of your co-founders has a lot of experience in the restaurant business.
So that's the question. So
yeah.
It's not a co-founder, it's a team. So I hired. So it's not, they are not co-founders. They are executive team.
Okay.
I'm the only founder, yeah. So that's the reason I was not able to add a team member instead of a co-founder. I found a field to add as a co-founder, but I didn't find a field for adding as a teammate.
So,
You see what I'm saying? Even though they are at the C-level.
yeah, I gotcha. What kind of constraints do you have on the amount of space under management team? Do you have more?
No, I'm talking about the team. A management team, I don't remember. But on the team side, yes, I was able to add. It's like a separate field, separate row that you need to add. When you're adding a new row, you need to select a field where who's that? What is the title? Or is it co-founder? So I didn't find it field. It's a drop down. You have to pick one of those, and one of those drop downs, the executive team wasn't listed, as far as I remember.
Gotcha. So I think if you have room on this executive summary page to put in some more information or specific information about yourself or key members of the team, I think it's good what you did here. But the reason I say that is because I think early stage startups, every investor will tell you they look at team. And so put it right in front of us right at the beginning. I like this. Our team has 35 years of combined experience in the restaurant industry. That's pretty solid. I think if you have room to put more information in there, I think there might, whether it's, some depth or some specifics, use that space as to the extent possible to get across the exceptional qualities that your team has. If you've been a previous founder, which you have been, put that in relevant experience. But that's basically the only, or one of the comments I would have on kind of this first level of things. I think, so that's kind of just like the high level, like, have you told me enough to make me want to look at your pitch deck, which is the next thing I'm going to look at. So you have one, that's good. I've seen sometimes people don't have them, or I've also seen, I don't know why, sometimes they don't work. And I'm not sure if it's a formatting issue or something, but that's, if you have a way to run through yours and make sure it's working within the platform, do that. But you don't have a problem. You've got a nice deck. And one of the things I'm going to mention about your deck, and I think all of you've probably heard, when you're doing presentations, don't put too much information in it, speak to it. But this is a leave behind deck. And you did a nice job of including information that someone can read and gather the information they need about the high points of your business. Most investors are used to looking through a deck or an executive summary when they're doing an initial screen. So you want to get that right. And I'm not going to go into the details of your deck here, but I think having the right format for a deck here that covers, and I mean, you cover problem space, your solution, business model, I mean, these are, there's those basics you've put here, and you've put in the right format for this type of audience who's going to be reading it first. You might want to have a modified version of a deck that you're speaking to that doesn't have all those words in it, but this one is suitable for this. The only, and like I said, this is a pretty important part of what you're doing here. I would make sure that you have your email address or your contact information right here on this first page, so that when somebody's opening it, they're seeing it. When they go back to, they can get it. Granted, they can connect with you through the platform, but I would always make sure it's on your deck, on the first page, and maybe on a last page too. I like the fact that you put Fave Kitchen's name on every page of the deck, but that's just my own personal bias.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. It's really hard to get your name remembered, and just cramming it down everybody's throat is perfect.
Especially in the middle of like a bunch of other pitches at the same time. You go through 5 pitches and you're like, I don't even remember the name of that other one that I liked, but.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm an investor. I've gone through this. I've seen this high level, you've checked out the boxes high level. Okay, great. And then I'm going to dig into the deck. I go through it. I've seen stuff. Now I might kind of ping around and see what else information is on here. but a lot of things like financials and you've probably put that into the deck, at least the summary of it. So some of it's redundant, but I think that I probably want to see something about financials either in the deck or on this page or both places. Make sure they're the same. Oops. Make sure they're the same. By financials, I mean, do you have revenue? At what level? What are your projections? And also the terms of, if you have terms you're seeking or terms that you're on your raise, and what you intend to use that business for, or use that money for. That's probably as far as I would go to make a decision about, do I want to have a meeting? Do I want to, continue, have a conversation with the entrepreneur? Kind of move further on into unpeeling the onion on due diligence. That's kind of where I stopped with this evaluation. But there are a couple recommendations I might have just overall in this, in addition. I think I already mentioned the team detail. Just get that front and center, because investors, it's a critical element of what they're looking for as they're evaluating your company. On your executive summary, which I think is secondary to the pitch deck, but also important, to the extent, use the customer problem space for me is a very important area. And what are you solving? How big of an issue is it? How urgent is it to your customer set? Use that to really get across that you're doing something significant here. And I think you're fairly high level here, and I maybe want to see a little more urgency or impact in the problem space. And the only other kind of commentary I had about your specific thing had to do with target market, and this is getting into detail. You're quite broad here. I think in your deck you're a little more specific, but I always like to think of target market and kind of your early adopter market, the people that you're going after now, the representative of your early customers, and then the broadest view of where you can take the company. So it's the SOM, the SAM, the TAM kind of thing. But I think a little bit more detail here helps me understand how you're thinking about your initial tactical steps, and then also what's the opportunity space. It's very helpful for me to know that you're operating in a multi-billion-dollar global market versus a small flat market that's regional. I think for me, market size and market opportunity are really important for me to think about, to compare good opportunities versus other good opportunities and who's riding the biggest wave. But other than that, I think this is a very nice profile that hits all the high marks and gets me interested, and makes me want to engage a little bit more with this company and with you, and kind of understand the business.
And John, wouldn't you say that that Praveen's is a fairly sophisticated one for some of the ones that we see in the early stages at SAC? So we're often seeing people who actually are still, understanding their customer fit and their business model, and may not have all of the components that Praveen has in here in such an organized manner, but we do expect to see that as you're working with SAC, that you would actually be tightening these things up. So that's the whole point of this, couple months of education sessions, and the opportunity when you come in early as a founder to be connected with an angel advisor.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, exactly what you said. I think it is important, even if you are earlier stage, that you are able to project the vision of your business. And I think you can do that through the high level pieces. And really, I think as you evolve as a startup, you're going from assumptions in a business model to validated assumptions in a business model that change over time as you learn more. But you need to you begin with assumptions, and that's what you can start with, and make it clear to the investors, where you are in your process. I mean, they'll figure that out too. But every startup has at least, they have a founder. They have usually a few other people working on the team. You can have a pitch deck that can explain your business and vision, and an overview of the problem space you're trying to solve, and how you're going about doing it.
So Alexandra, you raised a question, and it's an important one, as John just finished talking about team. And he was talking, so wasn't probably unable to see that the chat was coming up with a couple of responses to your question, which was, with all the new technology available to us and the amount of outsourcing resources, do we really need a co-founder to sound legitimate these days? And so it would be interesting to know your thoughts on how you would pull, because people are creative about how they pull other resources into the team. Having just heard how important this is, can you give us a little thought about your thinking on not having a co-founder?
No, actually, what happened is that my whole life I worked in social services. So I'm surrounded by people who give their work for free. They're not considering business opportunity. Those who know me and those who I work with many years were disappointed to hear I'm going into business. I don't have simply like-minded people around who would want to join an venture. So I had to do it myself. I wasn't myself just by myself. I work with the great partners overseas who support me tremendously, help me and mentor me in this project. They're not co-founders. They have their own companies that they bring into the picture, but they don't necessarily mingle with Siberian Polypreneurs was my company here, right? Mm-hmm. So they provide support. They are obviously a part of a team, but I am the founder, and it's not because I don't want to have somebody join me. I actually wanted from the start, really long informed, but I just don't have people around me, like I said, the like-minded people at this point. This will change in the future. There will be, I have 4 more projects in the making right now. So I will definitely would love to have at least 2 or 3 of those projects with the co-founder. I have to have people with the same passion for what I do around me who would want to join on the project. So John was actually the one we had a one-on-one session when he did tell me that it's not a very favorable view on the company when there is only one founder. And as I have mentioned at the start of this session, is that I am an unusual company, let's put it this way, an unusual startup. And was I listening to Praveen? That's what he said. He said, I do not have a co-founder. I have a team of people, executive level, hired to work on the project. So he's the founder. And that's basically what's happening to me right now in my startup. I brought it to the successful level to where I could with the funds I have, with very creative ways of using very little funds I had. I have to say it's in a good place right now, my company. And so I want to move forward. I want to move, expand and grow big this company. So I would be, and I am looking right now for the people to hire, like a managerial level. But I don't see how I can bring in a co-founder at this point, because I've done the preliminary work, honestly. And so that's probably where my view is coming from. I understand there is, in certain areas that of startups, it is necessary to have co-founder, but my situation, let's just work out that way.
I understand that, and it wouldn't be you both wouldn't be the first people who have actually come in with supplementing your knowledge and your activity level with a strong advisory level or an administrative team. Thanks, John, for sharing there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I thought maybe it would be time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible to get funding as a sole founder, but there are, I think, earlier this year during one of our talks, we had one of our speakers say that it's less common, and that because it's sort of a potential, single point of failure. But also, I think even if you have multiple founders, you have one CEO, and one of the founders is the business lead. But you need to complement that with other skill sets. And typically, early stage startups don't have all those spots filled, and the CEO or the founder is trying to do everything they can. And then as the company grows over time and has funding to do it, they bring in the expertise required to be a chief revenue officer or chief technical officer or something like that, as is needed to complement the team. And so, the first path on an entrepreneur's journey is to begin to create the broadest team of people that has enthusiasm for what they do. And I think sometimes that signal of multiple founders is sort of an indication of that. But there's, companies get founded with one founder or, or three or four. I think I heard somebody say more than that is sometimes a problem also. But
since you're on this topic, I have a question. So when do you call a co-founder a co-founder? A stake? Or is it the starting point, or is it the point where they join the company, or what is it? So I consider it as this point, at least for me. When I started, the team that I have, they started with me, but I'm the one who went and executed this initial start. But after that, they were along with me all the time, and I joined them into the team. And when I want to make them a co-founder, advisors kind of advise me, hey, you built it all the way. So when you're calling someone a co-founder, is it the number? Like, hey, are you going to give 50% away of your stock options? And when do you call a co-founder in terms of stock options?
It's completely
In terms of stock
negotiable.
options.
yeah, I think it's very fungible. I think somebody just said very negotiable. It doesn't have to be somebody that's been with you from the beginning. Yeah, I've seen it in different ways. But I used to have that kind of point of view too. It's like, oh, I thought a founder was like, the person who was at the table when you wrote it up with on a napkin, and now you're founders. That's not necessarily the case. It could be somebody you bring in later who's just going to be an incremental part of your growth.
Well, there's two classic famous
Sweet.
examples of this. The first one is Tesla.
Great.
Elon Musk would not usually be regarded as the founder of Tesla. The company was actually started as a couple of guys doing it as a hobby almost 2 years before Elon Musk got involved. But he was the guy who brought in the money and the ability to get more financing. And he is therefore not only regarded as a co-founder, but the other two people who built the thing before he showed up are usually forgotten. The other example is Sun Microsystems, where Bill Joy was a celebrity who was responsible for an awful lot of the Berkeley Unix stuff in the 70s, including Berkeley Unix TCP/IP stack. Sun Microsystems, it stood for Stanford University Network originally. And they were up to about 20 employees by the time they brought in Bill Joy. They wanted him so badly that they gave him status as being a founder at the time of the IPO about a year later. So it is
awesome.
completely negotiable. And
That's good to know.
Yeah, but because there's no, it doesn't go onto the papers in the corporation records generally. You have people who lie about being a founder. I'm not going to name names, but there are some well-known individuals associated with well-known startups who claim to be founders, but who really aren't. So it's very
totally
highly
makes sense. Got it. So is there any stuff when you come back into the papers, right? So when you call someone a co-founder, there is no number associated with it. It could be 1% or 10% or 50%, right? Is that right? Is that a good right statement that I made?
I would say so, but I mean,
Options.
the rule of thumb that people
When do you
always,
call a co-founder?
yeah, the rule of thumb that
Go
people always told me was that the first 10 employees, by the time you get to your third round of financing and you've diluted the initial stock somewhat, assuming they did not put substantial cash into the deal, the first 10 employees are going to share somewhere around 5 to 8% of the total company. And whether it's stock grants or stock options is a detail. The rule of thumb has always been you take like 5% of the company divided by your employee number, and that's how much you get. So if you think about how that works.
For a co-founder?
For any of the co-founders, right. So if you're employee number 1, you get 5%. If you're employee number 2, you get 2.5%. If you're employee number 3, you get 1.6%, and so on, which is why it's really important to be one of the first employees. That was the rule of thumb I was taught. Whether it's, again, it's highly negotiable. As you can see, in the case of Bill Joy, if you're a celebrity and the fact that you're on the team is going to bring a lot of credibility and a lot of favorable attention, then you can cut a much better deal than everybody else.
Right. So
but
that makes sense. So that you are saying that, go ahead, finish it. Sorry.
That's just it. There does exist a rule of thumb, which, I took the class and that's what they told me. So.
Okay, so there is a number associated when you call someone a co-founder.
Yeah, but the other thing that's important is if you look at companies that did not have any investors whatsoever, or where all of the investors were friends and family, which it helps a lot to be from a rich family. That's why Bill Gates is very rich today, because he did not take any outside investors until quite late in the game. And when he walked, he personally walked with about 10% of Microsoft, I think, maybe more. Whereas most people, even if they're lucky and they don't suffer a down round or a mez round, they still are going to wind up with single-digit percentage of the company at the liquidity event. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, this is how it works. But again, there are rules of thumb for this stuff around. So sorry if I'm long-winded.
Question, because we're on the Gust profile, right? So that's what this topic is. And so Andrew and Caitlin, they responded, if you don't have a co-founder, it's important to show that you can discuss critical issues about your structure and be open to pivoting if necessary. So how do we do that on Gust profile, do you think?
That is a good question. I'll tell you, I've pitched some startups over the years, and the first people you pitch them to are potential co-founders. Long before you get to talk to investors of any description, you're pitching people who you think would make a good co-founder. And the most common response is, "That's a great idea, Dave. Call me when you get funding." So this is a cousin of the old, if you're a teenager or something, you can't get experience without a job, and you can't get a job without experience. So you can't get a co-founder without money, and you can't get money without a co-founder. I don't know if that answers your question, or if
No,
that's
well, not necessarily, but yes, it is my dilemma exactly, because you're looking for people to join on your venture. They're like, "I love it, but how much are you going to pay me?" I worked for free for 3 years. I mean, you have to have that burning passion for what you do to make that happen for nothing, because, it's going to work. So there's not a lot of people around, right? So exactly my dilemma.
You're
But
not alone.
I wonder if Andrew
you're
and
not
Caitlin
alone.
have some idea, because they work with the Gust profile, and maybe I know John too gave me some suggestions, so maybe you can guys answer it too. How do we work with the
Yeah.
profile?
And I think, so
Elizabeth, yeah.
we've got a marketing firm here. So let's, Andrew and Caitlin, can you just talk about how you can use this venue to market?
Yeah, I think, did you have
Yeah.
something specific?
If you don't have a co-founder and you don't have somebody to really write, like, "Oh, I have some other person that's also going to be taking care of this for a dual team, we can handle this between two people," I think you really need to sell yourself on your own profile then. Since you are alone, you really need to say, "Hey, I can handle this. I have all this experience. I have the time to do it. And I'm really dedicated to it. I'm passionate about the project." So really sell yourself, since you can't sell anybody else.
My go-to would be, and I'm a data guy, so this is totally biased, but I'm going to speak about bias for a minute. Try not to include any bias. This is not an algorithm. Like, you're not writing so that Google can find your profile. You're writing this so that investors can digest your profile. And these are other people. Make sure that you don't put anything like don't brag. Say, "This is my experience," but don't say, "I was the best." Don't talk about how everything is matter-of-factly and you know what's right and you know this, you know that. Don't add any bias or any matter-of-factly attitude. Use only statistics and data to show the investors, like, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's my revenue. Here's what I'm trying to focus on. Here's my market, my market attrition rate. Here, everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." But I would stay far away from using any of your personal emotions in those profiles if you're working alone.
And also,
I know.
when you are adding team members, if you do have team members, not necessarily co-founders, really play up that these team members are a real supportive thing to you, that it's not just you running into the woods by yourself with a machete. It's a whole team of warriors going in here and really fighting for you, not just you.
Yeah, well, I think the largest successful startup I've ever, had any dealings with was probably Autodesk in Marin. They had 12 co-founders.
Wow.
I don't know what the exact situation was with them, but I have the idea that they all found themselves unemployed on the same day. That was the motivating factor. But yeah, this is an activity that resembles dating, and you need people who are philosophically aligned. It's one temptation you often see is you get people who have very, very similar personalities and very, very similar skill sets, which does work out. Hewlett and Packard were very similar, and they proved to be an effective team. But it's generally thought to be better to have one person who does the technical, the subject expertise things, and then the other person who is more marketing, general management, and finance. That seems to be a better thing. But it's like dating, and one thing that I've come to understand just watching this meeting is that yeah, the relationship you have with your funding people is also very key. It's I've come to the conclusion that unless a person has a technical undergraduate degree, computer science, electrical engineering, astrophysics, something like that, I don't want them on my board. I think that's something that you have to be honest about, and you have to look in the mirror and say, what do I need here, and what are my requirements? I cannot have a situation where 90% of the people who read my my pitch are going to reject it because they don't know what the words mean in the executive summary. Can't have that. And I'm also not going to have a situation where I spend, the first, 20, 30 minutes explaining how quantum computers work. If you don't know that going into the meeting, then you have no business even thinking about investing in it, because you're gonna get scammed if you if you don't have the sector expertise. You shouldn't be investing in stuff like that. But conversely, if I've identified individuals, whether they're high net worth individuals or what, if I have to explain this from zero, that's not going to work. You need, and now the restaurant industry, yeah, that's a little more generic, but it's like dating. That's the one
There's
thing
no
I would
question
say.
you are looking for your funders to offer you some assistance other than just money. I agree with you
Yeah.
on that, Dave.
Yeah,
I think go ahead, Elizabeth.
you're right.
Well, one other thing I was going to say is that you actually can show your strength on your team by two other components. One is what your competitor analysis is, and the other is your customers. So your customers and the fact that they're actually going to be supportive of your initiative can be a very strong weighting. And we haven't really touched on either of those two things.
So one thing I'd like to point out, and Dave kind of touched on it, but I think the word dating is really applicable here, is that early stage investing typically involves a lot of it's not as rigid as, oh, they only have one founder, I'm not looking at that company. Now, some people might have that rule, but I think what we look at as investors is the entirety of the story, the team, and the opportunity, and then identify where there are strengths and weaknesses in that narrative. Sometimes a strong team can overcome some of the weaknesses in the other part at early stage, because you have a confidence in this combined set of forces and capabilities and experiences that they will be able to overcome problems as they come up. I guess what I'm saying is you will encounter different types of investors, but also at this stage of investing, we know that companies are incomplete, and that so the team fills the gap of incompleteness and gives us confidence. And so that's why I think the more early stage the company is, the more the weight is on the team. But the team will, as the company grows, will always be an important element of the decision making. But I wouldn't get hung up on, I'm a sole founder, I don't have a chance. I think it's part of your overall story, but it may be perceived as a I don't want to say a weakness, but an area for you to be very cognizant of. What does that mean, and how do you fill that gap? Like dating, not every investor and company are going to come together for a lot of different reasons. And bias is in there. But I think if you have a company that that has potential and you have the drive to do it, there's lots of ways to get there. And there are people that are willing to come along with you. And it's just kind of your role as an entrepreneur to, sift through and find those people. And sometimes it takes some time to figure that out just as you're growing. So just want to add that kind of angle to it.
One of the biggest things I've noticed, so I've interacted with a lot of investors over the past probably 6 to 7 years. One common notion that I've picked up from all of these investors is that they're typically not super focused on the company. I mean, of course, the company is important in a lot of cases, but some investors will literally just dump money on a team, like a lot of private investors. They'll dump money on a team just so that they can get the team in their wheelhouse, just so that, if that idea doesn't work out, they still have this network of people to move on to the next thing. Or they want to follow them. They think that one or two of them is going to be successful and they want to see this team continue to blossom and grow. So that's another thing you have to consider is, if you jive well with an investor, it's a probability that that investor likes you and who you are and trusts you and has established that connection with you, that they believe that you are the person you say you're trying to be. It takes a lot of effort to get there in some cases. Investors are pretty hard shells. They don't want to be bothered all the time, and of course, you coming in as a startup, like, hey guy, look at my big important idea. They're getting those emails every day on LinkedIn. They're getting these every day on Twitter. They're getting bugged constantly in some cases.
That's why it's great to do like the Seattle Angel Conference, where they are opting in to having everybody pitch to them, and they're ready to hear all these begging for money people, rather than seeing their inbox full of people being like, hey, give me money, give me money, give me money.
Yeah. Establishing a rapport is extraordinarily important. And a lot of investors, if they don't like you, they're probably not going to invest in you.
Mm-hmm. It's really important to network with investors as well. So if you can attend the meetings and like chat with the investors that show up to the meetings, that's really great. Just getting yourself out there and creating more of a personal meeting with these people, rather than just seeing a Gust profile that's just words on a page.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a lot of people, I hear the most common thing that I hear about startups when they come to me and they call us, and we get calls from all around the country, and we answer the phone, and we're talking to them, and we ask them, like, what have they got ready? Like, what have they prepared? Do you have a Gust profile? Have you done your lean canvas? And they go, oh, well, we're too busy for that. And that statement, I'm too busy to do the work that I need to do to get the investment that I need to make my company work, is literally mind-blowing to me.
Red flags, red flags.
That instantly turns me the other way. When they say, like, I don't know how to do a lean canvas, I go, cool, let's get it done. They're like, yay. Then I get happy. When people come to me and they're like, I don't have time for that. It's like, then you don't have time to run this business. You should stop, because you need to do your due diligence and get the things you need to have in order done first. In order.
Of course.
Yeah, you don't show up to the job interview without your resume.
If they have positive cash flow, I think you can forgive them a certain amount of busyness.
Sure, yeah. If they have positive cash flow and no market viability or scalability or segmentation, like, where's that cash flow going to go? Like, how are you going to turn it into more money? And if you do have positive cash flow, sometimes an investor, like Dave's saying, sometimes an investor will overlook that and say, okay, now let's figure out how to get you to scale. And that is an option. Yes,
that might also be like, hey, you're cash positive, you should hire somebody very part-time to go like help you do these things. Then if you don't have the time to do the little tedious things that are the beginnings of your company and are the first steps that every investor is going to want to see in these things, then hire that very part-time person to help you out that does have the time to do it.
Or get an unpaid intern.
Yeah, or an unpaid intern. Always great.
Certainly, running your company and going after funding are major things. So, Alicia, Carolyn, Dirk, have you got any questions or comments that you would like to add to this as you've been hearing the conversation?
I think it's been a great conversation. I had a question like Alexandra. So my situation is a little different. My husband is my co-founder, my thought partner, and we are working with our funding that we have, like, it's sweat equity so far. And with regards to having more partners. I have mentors and I have people in the industry or colleagues who test the product and things like that. But it was a good discussion on learning that you can have someone as a co-founder years down the lane. So that was new information for me. Yeah, it was a great conversation, and thank you for making me aware about Gust. It's something that I will jump to once I finish. I've already made my lean business plan. I'm moving on to the, I call my V3 version of business model, and then probably I'll jump to Gust.
Well, that's good that you're on to that.
Thank you.
Dirk, I know that you were a little bit occupied, but do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask either the audience or Caitlin, Andrew, John, Praveen?
I have to sign off. It's been great. Thank you.
Dave, thanks for
Take
joining
care.
us. And I see your LinkedIn invitation, so I'd be glad to connect with you there.
Yeah, and I also posted the Writing an Effective Gust Profile slideshow to our website while we were talking here, and I posted the link in the chat. So if anybody wants to go review the last discussion we had, we went through the steps of setting up and optimizing somebody else's account who had developed their account, but they hadn't filled out all the information. And so it's kind of got a walkthrough of how you can go through and fill that same information out. So Alicia, I believe that might be helpful for you later.
Everybody's at different stages here, and we're hoping that, oh, you came off mute. Did you?
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. If there's no further questions, Andrew and Caitlin, can you put your that's your document in there, but can you put your email address in there? Did you do that already?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for if people who need a little extra help.
There you go.
Thank you.
Email either of us or info@Synthesis. I would say if you guys are interested in just getting feedback, maybe we can schedule a group call of people who want to do that. Might be easier to just answer a bunch of questions at once instead of just one. But if anybody's interested in that, you guys can contact us openly. I would highly recommend coming to the talk on the 27th for anybody who is still here. That discussion with the gentleman who actually started Gust probably be very helpful, and Praveen and I might be able to stress some of our frustrations towards him.
He's a very
Thank you.
fast talker and had filled, gem-packed, every sentence is filled with resources that he has access to. So I
Nice.
think we're going to enjoy his conversation.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, I'll excuse us all for the day. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, John, for sharing your investor comments, and Praveen, kudos to you for being the one to put your profile up there. So we want to say thank you very much. And we're so delighted that you were the first company into SAC for the companies, and thank you for being the one to share today.
Yeah, Praveen, thank you.
I'm glad. Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, Andrew and Caitlin, thanks again.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Have a good day, guys.
Very much for all your information. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Alexandra.
everyone.
Bye, Alicia.
Bye.